Do you want to know why the festive season in our land smells of roasted goat, fried plantain, and blood? Why December carries laughter in the morning, but funerals at night? I will tell you. But remember, some stories are not just for hearing, they are for trembling. The roads in our country are not just roads, they are not just tar and gravel. They are spirits, silent, patient, thirsty. And every December, when the drums of Christmas roll, when the villages prepare for feasts, when city children hurry to see their grandmothers, these roads open their mouths wide. They drink blood. I remember sitting with an elder who whispered to me under the moon, "Boy, travel in March, travel in May, but if you love your shadow, avoid December roads." So that is when the family gather. That is when the parks are renewed. That is when the highways are altered. And he was right. Look at the records. Year after year, the biggest crashes, the heaviest deaths. They come when the year is ending. Buses like coffins, trucks like hungry giants, all colliding, all spilling red. Some say it is carelessness, some say it is bad road. But those who know, them that whisper behind calabashes, they say, this is sacrifice. There is a society older than the colonial map, older than the churches, older than even the first guns, the famla. The name alone makes drunkards sober and mothers spit. It is not spoken in daylight. Their marks are carved from trees struck by lightning. Their clothes dyed with red, so deep you wonder if it is really dye. They do not walk, they glide. They do not speak, they chant. And when December comes, they gather in houses with no doors, only shadows. I once overheard a fragment of their vow. Wealth must flow, blood must flow. If the people laugh, let the roots cry. If our barns are to be full, the graves must be fuller. So every December, when the market women sell pepper like fire and children chase balloons, the farmers sharpen their knives, not for goats, not for cows, but for the roads. Because the road is their God, their altar, their sacrificial ground. They do not kill with their own hands. That would be too obvious. Instead, they let the road kill. They whisper incantations at crossroads. They tie red cloths to invisible posts. They release shadows like hunters. And then, crash, a bus flips. Crash, a lorry runs into a taxi. And the news calls it accident. But tell me, how can so many accidents happen only in December? How can death know a calendar? It was on the 10th day of December that they gathered deep in the hills, where the forest falls like a clenched fist. The moon was their lamp, the drums their clock. One by one they came, old men with trembling legs but sharp eyes, young men with chests painted in chalk. Inside the circle, they placed a black goat, its horns tied with palm leaves. They circled it, chanting, stamping, blowing horns that sounded like graves opening. The leader gifted his staff. Carved with 7 heads, he spoke. Brothers of shadow, the year is ending, the spirits demand. The barns are empty, the pockets thin. Who among us will feed the road? Another elder replied, the buses will feed, the lorries will feed it. The children going home for Christmas will feed it. The goats trembled, the air grew heavy, then the staff struck the ground. Thunder rolled, though the sky was clear, and they vowed, by the 24th, the road will eat, by the 31st, our wealth will be sealed. And so it was decided, not in the offices of transport, not in the traffic police, but in the shadows, that December would drink blood again. That night, even the owls refused to sing. Their air was thick, as if the forest itself held its breath. In the circle of firelight, the black goat lay bound, eyes wide with knowledge too ancient for animals. The family began their work. Their voices rose, deep and haunting, each syllable like a drumbeat carved into bone. The chants were not of this world. They curved, twisted, and vanished into the trees, where unseen things listened and nodded. One elder lifted a calabash filled with palm wine and poured it onto the earth. The soil hissed, the goat screamed, the staff struck again. You are not just flesh, you are the gate. Through your blood the roads shall drain. The knife was lifted, thin and sharp, glinting like the tongue of a snake. When it fell, silence roared. The goat's blood spilled onto the ground, but it did not sink. No, it spread, circling the fire, forming patterns that shimmered. The earth drank eagerly like a thirsty throat. Then something shifted. A shadow rose from the blood itself, tall and shapeless, with a face of smoke. It spoke without words. I will take what you promise, but the road will not be satisfied with goats alone. It craves men, it craves women, it craves children. By your vow, I shall feed. And the family bowed. They had bargained. The deal was sealed. That night, the black goats died, but the roads were born again, born hungry, born waiting. The roads stretched quietly under the December sun. They looked harmless, smooth tar dancing mirages, children selling boiled granuts at the corner. But don't be deceived. That silence was the silence of a hunter waiting in the bush. In the cities, families packed bags, mothers stuffed plantain chips into baskets, fathers checked spare tires, children jumped up and down, too excited to sleep. The villages called, and December was the bridge. Every bus stop became a sea of faces. Traders carrying heavy loads, students rushing home, lovers eager for reunion. The laughter was plenty, the songs were loud, but above it all, the roads listened. Have you ever looked closely at the long stretch of highway at dusk? It breathes. The heat rising from the tar is not just heat, it is the spirit breath. It watches, it counts. Each overloaded car, each wobbling bus is noted like a goat tied for a slaughter. On the 22nd, a bus left the city with 70 people, though it was built for 40. On the 23rd, another left with chickens, goats, sacks of yam piled so high the roof sagged. The passengers joked, "Hey, this one no be bus, na Noah's Ark." And they laughed, but the road did not laugh. The road licked its lips. It happened on the 24th of December. Just as the family had promised, the sun was high, the air dusty. A bus called God is Able sped down the highway, filled with singing passengers. Someone beat a drum at the back, another clapped. Children chorused Christmas songs. Then, out of nowhere, a shadow crossed the road. The driver saw a red cloth tied across the highway, though no one else saw it. He swerved. Tires screamed. The bus stopped once, twice, thrice, metal bending like plantain leaves. When the dust cleared, silence lay heavy. Then came the cries. Blood dripped onto the tar like libation. A mother's hand still clutched a toy, her child gone cold beside her. The driver's head pressed against the broken glass, eyes wide open as if still staring at the red cloth. People gathered, screaming, praying. Some said they heard drums in the distance, though there were no villages nearby. Others swore they saw masked figures vanish into the bush. The news reported, "Another tragic accident, over 40 dead." But the elders whispered, "The road has eaten." And somewhere in the hills, the farmers sat in silence, nodding. Their bargain was working. Their barns would be full, their pockets heavy. But at what cost? The story spread like wildfire. A massive trailer carrying logs was seen on the Bamenda Douala highway, thundering down the slope with no driver in the cabin. It was Christmas Eve, the time when every road becomes a river of buses, taxis, motorbikes, and overloaded lorries. People had noticed the trailer from afar, its headlights glaring like the eyes of a beast. At first, nobody panicked. It was just another truck rushing to deliver goods before the holiday. But as it drew closer, horror bloomed. The cabin was empty, completely empty. Still, the steering wheel turned. The gears shifted. The horn blared. Long but mournful blast that shook the air. The logs chained to the back rattled like bone. Cars swerved into the bush. Motorbikes toppled. Some passengers swore they saw a figure made of smoke seated in the driver's seat. Others claimed they saw a headless man with hands of fire. One old woman insisted she recognized the trailer. It had belonged to her late brother, who died on that very road 5 years before. The trailer plowed into a bus. The crash was catastrophic. Flames rose, screams pierced the night. But by the time rescuers arrived, the trailer was gone, vanished, no sign of it, only burnt wood and twisted metal. That night, the villagers whispered, "It is the road itself that drives." Survivors are rare in these accidents, but those who live are. Their stories are worse than death. Take the case of B, a young woman returning home from Yaoundé. She was seated near the window when her bus somersaulted 3 times. Everyone around her died. She crawled out of the wreckage, bloodied but breathing. She said that as she stumbled to her feet, she heard laughter. Not human laughter, no, it was deep, gurgling, as if someone was laughing underwater from the shadows of the trees. She saw tall figures wrapped in raffia skirts and cowries, their masks painted with blood. They danced around the wreckage, pointing at the bodies, mocking the dead. One of them bent low and whispered into her ear, "Go, tell them you are not yet satisfied. Next year, we will take more." Another survivor, a man named Kofi, swore he saw the face of his dead father among the rescuers. But when he reached out, the man melted into dust. For weeks later, Kofi could not sleep. He said whenever he closed his eyes, he heard the grinding of gears, the shriek of tires, and that same underwater laughter. The doctors said it was trauma. The elders said it was the road smart. Survivors were cursed, chosen to carry the memory of the sacrifice. That is why many never return to the road again. Some go mad, others simply disappear. Inspector Ndifon was not a man of superstition. He believed in hard facts, in evidence, in the law. After 20 years of service, he had seen his share of accidents, but something about the festive season toll bothered him. The numbers were too precise. Every December, around the same date, the deaths spiked. He started digging. He interviewed survivors. He studied accident reports. He went undercover in villages, whispered to harbor the famla. And slowly, he began to connect the dots. The rituals, the timing, the sacrifices. One night, he told his wife, "These are not accidents. They are harvest. Someone is feeding the road." She begged him to stop, but Ndifon was stubborn. On the 28th of December, he drove alone into the hills, determined to find the famla's gathering place. His last radio message crackled with panic. "Control, I see them, masked men, dancing around the fire. Something is here with us. Oh my God, it's looking at me. The line went dead. His car was found the next morning at the crossroads. The doors were wide open, the engine still running, but Nzifon himself was gone. Only his cap remained on the driver's seat, soaked in blood. Some say he was taken because he uncovered too much. Others believe he now drives the phantom trucks, condemned to serve the road forever. Either way, the message was clear. The road guards its secret, and those who dig too deep do not return. It was the 29th of December, the season when the air itself seemed restless. In a secret clearing, hidden behind the thick belly of the forest, the family gathered. Torches flamed. The drums did not sound like ordinary drums. They sounded like thunder, like bones clashing against each other in the underworld. Here came the masked men, raffia skirts swaying, cowries glittering. Their masks were painted in blood, red so dark it swallowed the firelight. They danced in a circle, and in the center was a calabash filled with what looked like palm wine. But when the wind shifted, the smell betrayed it. It was not wine, it was blood. The leader raised a horn and blew into it. The sound stretched across the forest, echoing down into the valleys, flittering across the highways, and every driver on the roads felt a shiver. Every passenger suddenly grew uneasy. The ritual had begun. The family chanted names, names of the roads, names of the rivers, names of ancestors who had once struck bargains with darkness. And then they called for the harvest. The road must eat. December 30th, on the highways from Douala to Yaoundé, Bamenda to Bafoussam, traffic was heavy. Buses were overloaded with chickens tied on rooftops, goats bleating, children squeezed 3 on one seat, mothers carrying babies wrapped in wrappers. Everyone was rushing home for New Year. That's when it started. One bus swerved as if pushed by an invisible hand and flipped. Another lorry's brakes failed, plowing into a taxi. A motorbike carrying 6 toppled into a ditch. The reports came like rainfall. Accident after accident, death after death. Witnesses swore they saw masked figures standing at crossroads, waving drivers on with skeletal hands. Others said the very road cracked open like a mouth, swallowing vehicles whole. The hospitals overflowed. The morgues ran out of space. Pastors prayed. Marabouts muttered. Elders shook their heads, but nothing could stop it. By nightfall, the toll was catastrophic. And yet the forest clearing, the family danced harder, their chants rising with their scream, every cry, every horn, blaring on the roads. The harvest was plentiful. In the village of Nkolofamba, a boy named Tita watched his mother die in a December crash. He was only 9. His father had died 2 years before, also on the road, also in December. But Tita was no ordinary boy. He had the eyes of an old soul, the kind elders whispered about. The night after the burial, he wandered into the forest barefoot, carrying only a small calabash of water. He poured it on the ground and said, "If you must take, take me, but stop killing the rest." The wind shifted, a shadow rose. It was tall, with arms like branches and eyes like burning coal. It was the spirit of the road. The spirit bent down, and for the first time someone heard it speak. Its voice was gravel, its breath the smell of petrol. "Child, I do not choose. They feed me, they call me, I only answer." Tita did not cry. He lifted his chin and said, "Then may their harvest turn against them." The ground trembled, the spirit laughed. It sounded like screeching tires. "So be it, but you will never be free." From that night, Tita was marked. His shadow sometimes walked without him. His reflection sometimes blinked when he did not, but the accident slowed in his village. People said the boy had cursed the farmer's harvest. On the New Year's Eve, a terrible storm swept the highways. Drivers reported seeing the asphalt ripple like waves. Tires sank into the road as if it were mud. Some swore they heard the road breathing, slow, heavy, breaths that shook the windows of buses. One driver said his steering wheel was pulled from his hand as though unseen fingers gripped it. Another said the road whispered to him, "Faster, faster, let me drink." At midnight, lightning struck the hill outside Bafoussam. The ground split, and from the crack rose a smell so foul it choked the air. Those nearby saw faces in the smoke, faces of all who had died on the road, screaming silently, their mouths wide open. The road was alive and it was hungry. January 1st, families gathered for New Year's feast. Drums echoed, children laughed, but far away on the highway between Yaoundé and Douala, an entire bus went missing. Not crushed, not burned, missing. 40 people vanished without a trace. The asphalt was unbroken, the trees untouched. The only sign was a smear of blood across the tar, stretching for 50 meters, as if something had dragged the bus beneath the surface. When searchers called the passengers' phones, the line would connect, but what they heard chilled them. Horns honking, brakes screeching, passengers screaming, as if the bus was still moving, somewhere else, somewhere beneath. The families never saw their loved ones again. That morning, elders declared it openly. The road had been fed, but at too high a cost. They warned the family that the debt would one day rebound. But the masked men only smiled, and so the legend grew. Every festive season, the toll rises. Every December, the roads take more. People blame reckless driving, bad vehicles, poor maintenance. But those who know, those who have heard the laughter, seen the marks, smelled the blood, they whisper a different truth. The family still dance, the road still eats, the sacrifices continue. But somewhere out there, a boy named Tita walks with shadows. His curse lingers, and maybe, just maybe, the road will one day turn on those who feed it. Until then, every horn on the highway, every screech of brakes, every December cry reminds us Africa is not for beginners. Here, even the road has teeth.